Every time you point a finger, there's three of them. Three of them pointed right back at you. See? Oh, yeah. You.
Okay.
Touche. I'll give you that one.
All right.
You win this round.
Dark. So we're back, everyone. Back again.
Who's in your cup?
Texas. Ironically, I brought the whole state.
The whole state. Right in the cup.
Whole state.
Wonderful.
It's very delicious.
But it burns going down.
Yes, it does. Like the sweet heat that you have.
Yeah, sweet heat. It's like 106 degrees for the last 2 weeks. Every single day. I'm going to just remind everybody of that. Not to mention the heat index. And no end in sight for the next 14 days. There's one day with 36% chance of rain. It hasn't rained in like 2 months. I'm going to throw that out there. And yeah.
All right, we're back.
And we're back.
We are back every single time. The third time's a charm. Let's just keep on coming back.
You think people just like watch the video and they just hear us say that and they're like, oh, why? Why couldn't you just stay away?
But my question is why are you here?
They're a glutton for punishment.
Ah, yes, masochists.
You know? Yes, yep.
For sure.
Everybody loves a good masochist.
Who doesn't? I mean, like, I do. It's one of my favorite things. It's a good masochist.
Yep.
So, Kyle, tell the good folks what we're talking about today.
And slander.
Truth, lies, and slander.
Nope, just the lies and slander part.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing but straight lies here.
Which, I mean, does pretty much
sum up my childhood.
Speak of, most of our young adult child life. That was how we functioned.
I stole things too a lot. I was a terrible kid.
You really were.
Just stuff, Does that count as lying? You know what I mean? Like stealing. Right? You're claiming it's yours, but it's really not.
That's absolutely lying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 100%. You were lying in both word and deed.
Yep. Well, what can you do?
What can you do? You know what my favorite part is that your parents always thought I was the bad influence.
You were.
Probably one of my...
I was also a bad influence on you.
On me.
You were also a bad influence.
I brought the worst out in you, and you brought out the worst in me.
Correct.
We literally were bad
a negative feedback
on. Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah,
really. The ironic thing is that both of our parents were like, I don't know if it's great if you're hanging out with Kyle. And we're just like, it can't be bad.
I don't know if my parents ever said that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember them. They were like, because they always thought that I had the cigarettes. Because you would like put it in my backpack when you would buy them when we would go to your house and be like, yeah, put these here. And then your mom opened it one day and found it. And she's like, Kyle, you should not be smoking. And I looked in there. I was like,
I don't remember that at all.
Yes. Oh, I remember it clear as day. We were sleeping on your parents' couch.
Why would my mom open your backpack?
She thought it was yours. And she was trying to get, she was like looking for something for yours.
Sure she did. Okay, Dorothy. Thought it was K-Fries.
She's like a bloodhound. She's just like checking through things.
I know how you operate.
She was like, Kyle,
talking about lying.
Is it lying if you're the parent? That's a good question.
Yes, it is. It's still lying. That's actually a topic or, something that I was going to bring up is that we try our best to not lie to our child, even if it's like, we don't have any more of those snacks. Yeah. Yep. I will tell him, no, we do, but you can't have it. And it's the harder way. It is sometimes.
It is. I will admit, even in my older age, I have boldly lied to my son. So how about Santa Claus? No. If they ask,
nope,
just automatically will be like,
Santa Claus will never exist.
Will never exist. Don't freaking ruin it for my kids. just because
I'm
you
going to.
have like a little Grinch complex. I'll be like, Kyle.
No, it has nothing to do with Grinch complex.
Kyle,
it has everything
Kyle
to do
Grinch,
with what Christmas actually has to do with.
Kyle Grinch is an awful person. You don't listen to Uncle at all.
Yeah.
That's what I will sell to him.
Yep.
I'm going to make sure they know.
Santa Claus isn't real. Your parents have been lying to you your whole life.
We're like, Kyle.
No,
Kyle's
when
been
it
on
comes
drugs.
to Santa Claus, all I'm saying is my kids are going to know who bought them those gifts. They're going to know who worked hard to get money to buy them those gifts, went to the grocery store, went to the,
what kind of stuff
we got great gifts here. I promise.
I don't think that you should be bragging on the oranges that
Apples,
you give them in their
strawberries, blueberries. Merry Christmas.
Wow. Gosh, you're really trying to.
We're getting Fiji apples, okay? We're not skimping.
That's all right. All right.
Yeah,
High
Granny
price
Smith.
apples. As long as you got the good stuff.
Yeah.
All the colors. All the Pink Lady. That's our go-to.
Yeah. Never had them.
Oh,
Anyway, we're getting off track here.
Moving on.
As far as I'm concerned, pink ladies are flowers, wildflowers. But yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, Santa Claus will not exist in my kids' minds. They're going to know who buys them the gifts, and it's why they're getting the gifts, right? It's a season of giving because Christ, right? We're celebrating the birth of Christ, and he received gifts. He is God's gift to us. All sorts of symbolism there.
And
I
mean,
it's not about materialism, but it's about sacrificing something of yours, your money or whatever, to get somebody else a gift, out of the kindness of your heart. And it's not about getting gifts. It's about giving gifts and Christ and family and all that fun stuff. And so, and also Kelly brought up something, we talked about this a long time ago before Maverick, I think, was even ever thought of. But she brought up the concern of, well, what happens when my kids believe in the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and all that, and then they find out that they're not real and their whole world is shattered, right? That's a big pivotal thing in their lives, and that you, as their parents, have been lying to them this entire time, and then they start asking questions about Jesus and God, which they should ask questions about Jesus and God. I think they should question their existence, and they should seek those answers on their own. I think that's a journey that every Christian needs to go on. However, I don't want that to stem from them discovering me lying about Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy. Like, I feel like it takes away credibility, for the parents, like parents' credibility to the children. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I see what you're saying. And I definitely do. I do recognize the interesting, aspect of they're both things that aren't there in sight that you're supposed to have belief in. The thing that I think is interesting about children is that it speaks to the same part that makes it easy. And in reality, what I think Christ was speaking to when he said you need to have childlike faith, because they profoundly believe in Santa Claus without having to have a concept of proof all the time, or the Easter Bunny or Tooth Fairy or whatever.
The authority in their life that have told them everything, 2 + 2 = 4 type of deal, is telling them that Santa exists and telling them, oh, you go to sleep and then you wake up and poof, there's presents, and it was this big fat jolly man. So I mean, that's where the faith comes from, is from the lie. And so
but the thing is the same concept is the aspect of when parents tell people or their children God's real. It's the aspect of I'm telling you this because of me being an authority. That's where kids take that on in the first place. They don't actually know in and of themselves. They didn't think it up. They didn't have that experience. It's a concept of it being bestowed upon them from their parents' belief. and then they get to like you were talking about, they question it themselves, they make it their own, all those concepts, where they decide to be baptized, all that aspect is their own. But in the beginning, it's just you telling them what they should believe in that part. Like God's real.
But then what happens to your credibility when they find out that you've been lying about Santa Claus? And you'll, I mean, at some point you admit, like, Santa's not real.
Yeah. So a lot of it is like the way that my dad did it with me, because again, we had to have this conversation, was he's like, it makes this season like magical, where like they get to believe in magic, they get to have that part. And then it became a part like you get to be that, like I always thought it was really cool to be able to be like behind the scenes with dad, like making this happen, to have this like fun experience that they would be able to enjoy. But like, it didn't bother me that I was like, he was just like, yeah, he's like, this is just something like that's fun, like make believe, like the aspect of like you had imaginary friends that you created, and we would jokingly be like, oh yeah, there he is, like blah blah blah, and he's like, and then you eventually grew out of it, and we're just like, oh, that's not real. And it wasn't this like shock of like, but you said he was there, and how could you lie to me? And like, it was just like, yeah, like now I realize that that's an imaginary friend.
With imaginary friends, you're not like the kid came up with them on their own. You weren't the one that said, hey, your imaginary friend exists. And so the kid comes up with it on their own, and then you're not making an entire holiday around their imaginary friend, where their imaginary friend gets them gifts and comes down the chimney and you better be good because blah 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 blah. Plus, imaginary friends are creepy ever since, what was it, Paranormal Activity 4 or something like that?
I think it was 3. Yes, Toby.
Yeah.
Which is what, we blamed everything on. Anything that went wrong was always Toby. But no,
I don't
it's
know
a cultural
if I've ever met a
imaginary
kid
friend
who wasn't traumatized to some extent when finding out that Santa wasn't real.
Wow.
And the older they were, when they found out, the worse it was, I feel like.
Oh, wow. Man. Yeah, like childhood trauma stuff. I literally was like,
Not me.
Okay, cool.
No, my grandpa told me when I was like 2 years old. I never remember actually believing in Santa Claus.
Oh, no.
My mom was very upset because I don't remember us too, but my grandpa was like, yeah, no, that crap's not real. Not gonna happen. And my grandpa's the greatest man I've ever met in my life. So
you literally sound just like him right now.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're holding it. But see, like that's the thing, is like that didn't bother me at all. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I get to be a part of.
I think you're
this magical.
I think you're a special boy then. For that.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like I think people were making it out to be more than it was, which I agree with you. That is not like that was the thing that my dad always did well is just being able to say like this is like the imaginary magical fun part, but like the real reason why we are celebrating this is because of Christ, not because of this is where we celebrate his birth. And so that was just like a part of saying like the Grinch and all these different things were just like a fun way of being able to celebrate the concept of the season. But he's like, this is the real reason why we do it. I think you can still
achieve all of that to the extent that you do by making up Santa Claus. You can still achieve all of that throughout the season and make it a special season, a special time. I mean, it should be a special time. We're celebrating the birth of Christ and, being with family and friends, and you get gifts, right? I mean, obviously it's fun to open up presents, especially as a kid, and so it's still all of that magical time and season and everything like that. If you make it and, put Christmas lights, I think people need to really get their acts together and start decorating their houses. Okay. Like what the heck is up with these people? Put some lights up,
It's not that hard.
Yeah. I see more Halloween decorations than I see anything else.
I know. Yeah. Freaking creepy stuff all over the house.
We've got this person in our neighborhood that literally 24/7 all year round, 365, they have decorations in their yard. I think that's a bit excessive, but it's whatever it is coming up. Yeah. Father's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, obviously 4th of July, that I get that.
Yeah.
but like literally anything. I think even like Flag Day or something like that. I'm like, okay, you're just really reaching right now.
People who are excited about life, every aspect of it.
Hey, that's great. If that's your thing. That's your thing. I spend money on stupid, pointless stuff, so I get it. But I get the concept of where that comes from, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, decorate your freaking yards, people. That's, you can use that to make it a magical, special time for your kids and get them involved in that. And I mean, it is what it is. People are going to forever, I think, to the end of time, convince their kids that Santa Claus exists. Yeah. I don't think that's ever going to stop. But, so I think it's a choice that every parent has to make. But yeah, there's none of that's ever going to exist here. Are you going to do Tooth Fairy and Easter Bunny as well? Or just Santa?
We never did the Easter Bunny. Like, my family never did the Easter Bunny. We just did Easter baskets. We did like eggs and stuff like that. But we would just be like, we're going to do an Easter egg hunt. But like, we never talked about like the Easter Bunny put these eggs out or anything like that. We were just like, go find your eggs. So like, that one was never big. The Tooth Fairy was kind of like something that we just did for like fun. But like, after I saw that movie with the Tooth Fairy, which was like a horror film, it's like the Darkness Falls or something like that. I like that ruined it for me, and so I don't think I'll ever do it. I just need to find horror films for each holiday, and then I'll give them up.
Yeah, that's Christmas has
like what is that, Krampus or something like that? Krampus. Yeah. So I'll just have to watch that, like and that'll ruin it.
I think that's like a German thing.
Yeah. So that's the thing is, so here's a question. This is going to get you into another aspect of lying. If your grandma gives you something and she says, do you like it? And you hate it. Do you say, no, grandma, sorry, I don't like it?
I think there is a proper way of doing that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying I'm great about it. I'm not saying I'm great about it. Yeah, I'm sure I have. Yeah.
Been like, grandma, this is crap.
I've never said grandma, this is crap, because I think that's also wrong.
This is a trash gift.
Yeah, I think that's also wrong. Because there's obviously a balance between speaking the truth and destroying your grandmother's whole psyche
soul
altogether. Yeah, just crushing her soul.
Are you ready? Because we're gonna bring it to a biblical concept.
Mm-hmm. So,
Rahab telling the lies that saved the spies from Jericho. So this is something that Dennis Prager said on Exodus. The thing is that he's like, these were not bad things. This was not condemned by God in any way throughout the biblical text. It was actually praised within that space, but she was lying. Same thing for like the people who were what is that called when you give birth to children but you're not a doctor?
Midwife?
Women do it a lot. Midwives, yes, from Egypt, when they were like, oh yeah, go and tell me when these babies are born. And then they lied and be like, oh, they just were super fast and we couldn't get to them. But they could have, and they just didn't. Another example of where they were never told, like God never said that was the wrong thing. And actually they were hailed as really good, faithful servants, but they were liars. And they actively lied in those spaces. And his point is that it was for a greater good than it was for the act itself. It saved lives. He was saying that the lies were for the benefit of others against a negative and evil. So it was an act against evil to lie. And so it's just an interesting concept.
Who's going to draw that line? Because the worst, I wouldn't even say I would say the worst atrocities ever committed, throughout history were in the name of the greater good.
Yes. So this is my point. So were those things wrong in that context? And if they were, why did God hail them as good? And talk about their righteousness in those acts.
Does God hail them as good? And talk about is there a part in the scripture, does it say that
Yes.
God
So
does
I'm
or
pretty sure
that
it's
people do.
Hebrews, where it goes back and it talks about the different people that were pivotal about helping the helping Christ come to be. And so it goes through and it talks about Rahab as being a righteous woman who saved Israelites from the unhealthy people in Jericho.
Yeah, I mean, you could still be a righteous woman and save Israelites, but doesn't mean your actions to do so were the best.
But that's the thing. That's
I mean?
the only thing we have of her. That's the only way that we would ever know that she's righteous.
And I
would
don't
be
know.
in that
Yeah,
one
I'm
spot.
not saying one way or the other. I'm just, I guess putting it to the fire type of deal of, playing devil's advocate of, King David is described as a man after God's heart, and he didn't always, act righteously. So, just because she was a righteous woman and she saved Israelites doesn't mean that her lying isn't considered a sin. Like when she died, and stood before God, was she judged for that?
I know, this is the interesting
What about
part.
the
It's
guard?
the same concept.
What about the Ark of the Covenant? The guard who
touched the ark.
Who touched it and died.
It's like, tink. Just
straight
dead.
I mean, there was one who caught it or something, he stopped it from falling.
On accident and died. He still died.
You know what I mean? So
come on now.
It was for the better, it was for the good, right? He didn't.
Also,
want
that's a knee-jerk reaction. That's
True.
not even fair.
And he still was punished by death.
I know. So here's the thing. So it comes back to that concept. Same thing that Bonhoeffer, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, went through to decide that killing Hitler was a good thing. Because he was a pacifist and didn't believe, he goes, because it says, murder is a sin. And in that space, he wasn't a soldier.
Murder is different.
Yeah, but he's not a soldier. He was not at war. He was a conspirator within the space. No one was attacking him. And he was like, in this space, I'm not at war with this person. They actually like me. And they're not hurting me at that time. And so he's like, it would be murder if I did it. Now, if I'm at war with a country and there are people that are attacking me and, stuff like that, that's a different concept. It's a different word in general. But he was actually okay by that.
Murder is killing in the defense of innocent life is not considered murder, even in a court of law here in the United States. I'm not at war with somebody. If I'm, if I witness, let's say it's a targeted killing or attempted killing, it's gang violence. I don't know. So they're specifically targeting somebody, right? It's not necessarily a mass shooter who's just shooting. And it could be, but to make this a very specific example, let's say it's something like, gang shooting, and they are specifically targeting one individual and reasonably, if I were to shoot and kill that person, that is not considered murder, even in a court of law. That's considered self-defense in the defense of others and the defense of innocent life. So although that person, I'm not at war with that person, or I'm not in direct conflict with that person, they could have their backs to me shooting in the opposite direction. So in theory, one could make the argument that I'm not in danger. I mean, I would argue the opposite, that, you never know when that person decides to turn their back and start shooting other people, blah, blah, blah. But for example purposes, their backs turned to me. They're shooting at one individual in particular. It's a targeted whatever. And I draw my concealed firearm and I shoot that person and kill them. That's not murder. That's self-defense. It's killing in self-defense, which at least by the United States government would be considered justified. Now, whether that's justified in the eyes of God or not, that's another discussion. But so just because he wasn't physically at war, he wasn't part of a nation that was at war with Hitler or anything like that, doesn't mean that that it's still murder. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that he's not killing in the defense of innocent life.
Yeah, and that's what he ended up coming to, was the concept of being able to say that if it is to save others, then it's acceptable to kill another person. If the killing in them stops them killing other people, or enslaving them, raping them, horrible atrocities.
Yeah.
And so that's what he came to. And what it was is that doing things that normally would be a sin for the aspect of saving others.
But see, it wouldn't normally be a sin, is what I'm getting at.
Yes, but his point is that his concept is that the killing of humans, because they're image bearers, is a sin.
Murder is a sin. No, like in the Ten Commandments, it doesn't say killing; it says murder. There is a difference.
Yes. So the concept of being able to say, like in Hebrew, is I don't ever know how to say it. It's harach, but to smite, destroy, kill, slay, dash to pieces, kill. Especially with premeditation, but doesn't always have to be. It can just be an aspect of like in the moment killing. And so
to go back to Dennis Prager, he in the same Exodus series, when they're talking about the Ten Commandments, he makes a point to say it is specified in Hebrew. It is different. It is not, because someone said thou shalt not kill, and he's like, now this does not mean killing, soldiers in war and, self-defense and everything. This means murder, there is a delineation made there in the Ten Commandments in the Hebrew.
Yes. And so that's the part is, he was saying that in his mind, the reason why he was a pacifist is because he was saying that since everyone is an image bearer, that he didn't feel like he could take the life of another image bearer because that's what they are. And so he's like, I don't have the ability to, in that space, take what is not mine, that I did not create, to take away, especially with that degree of importance. But what he did get to is the same concept of being able to say, like, now, because you are taking image bearers' lives and treating them poorly, you have forfeited your ability to be an image bearer in that moment. So it becomes that part where you actually are not being an image bearer, you are spiting that. And so to stop you from committing that I'll stop that part. Not because of the fact that I want to go out and do those things, but it becomes an aspect of, like, again, it's that weird part of saying, like, it's the greater good between, like, your life versus their life. But it's being able to say that they're not actively.
That's not the greater good, though. You could say the lesser of two evils if you want to say it that way. You know what I mean? But like saying that I killed somebody in self-defense of my own life, I'm not like I did it for the greater good. That I can't justify my life being for the greater good.
Being the greater good.
Being the greater good. For my family,
the lesser negative.
For my family, certainly me being alive is a greater good than that other individual.
Yes.
Obviously, like, I hope to never, ever be in a position where I have to take another human being's life. Right. But
absolutely.
Now we are getting way off the truth.
Super far off from the truth topic. But it comes down to the concept of, is being, the aspect of, like, how far does that go in the aspect of, truth, and it's like, oh, well, this is for a reason why this one's okay. But in reality, you see that, like, in the biblical texts, and that's one of the things that Dennis Prager, which again is not the end all be all for all things, but
I know.
Being able to recognize that, he's like, there is a difference.
I'm not even saying I disagree with you in this situation. I just wanted to make conversation, discussion.
But the other thing is like, if murder and killing can be different, then why can't lying be? Because killing something. But like, that's the thing, though. It's all you've done is made the definition. Well, then lying specifically versus lying generally is a distinction. If I'm killing someone to stop that from being, or if I'm lying to someone to stop negative things from happening, from them slaughtering other people or them lying about, like, this is the aspect of being able to say, like, we've separated. It's still ending a life, like whether you're doing it at war or whether you're doing it at, like.
But there's also a reason why there's two different words. I mean, there's a reason.
I can make up a new word for lying and say, like, or something. Okay, but now I can make it up. Just say this means
arbitrary,
this.
But that's very arbitrary. I mean, language evolves over time for a reason, and obviously it's influence here and there. But I mean, I'm not going to say every language. That's very absolutist of me. But to my knowledge, most commonly spoken languages out there have a distinction between murdering and killing. Obviously, in the Hebrew, there was a distinction between murdering and killing. But there, to my knowledge, very limited knowledge, by the way, is not a delineation made between lying, unless you want to call it a white lie. But that's,
there you go. Delineation.
Boom. But would you argue that white lying across the board, white lying is okay?
Obviously, yes.
Because I would say white lies are not okay. If my wife asks me, and we go through this often, if my wife asks me, do I look good in this? Do you like this? I tell her. I tell her straight up. If I don't like it, I tell her, I say, babe, you will always look beautiful and I will always love you. I do not like that dress on you. It's it's not flattering. Definitely. It's not, I don't like this, that, and the other, whatever. But I'll always tell her. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, babe, it looks great.
I agree with that. But here's my point. I think that's where the Bible does delineate between, because there's this concept of, like, this was a good act that led to good things. This was a horrible act that led to bad things. And it's lying on both ends. So there's this aspect of being able to recognize that there was a separation, just like the concept of killing and murder.
Murder was a bad act and lead to good things.
But, like, so we are saying,
look at King Solomon, look at David,
killing
and Bathsheba.
Killing is the same thing. So I'm saying, like, a delineation that may not be sin. So killing of a human, killing of an imago Dei, an image bearer, is always bad, but it's not always sin. So the thing is, we agree that war is awful, but we have delineated that it's not sinful. No. So I'm just saying that lying, we can agree, is bad, but maybe lying in that specific space isn't sinful.
Yeah, maybe not.
Because it's a separation. Because if we can do that for killing, my gosh, we should be able to do it for lying. Because, I mean, like, killing someone's way worse than lying. But we're like, this one's not bad. We can go to war and still massacre countries. God doesn't see one worse than the other, and God's the one who determines sin or not, type of deal. I know. But that's what I'm saying. You said killing is way worse than lying. Well, not in God's eyes, it's not. Well, I'm just saying, like, there is an aspect where,
in God's eyes, it's well, in every instance, it's the same. But the Bible talks about sinning in the heart as well is the exact same as sinning with your actions, I guess, or whatever. Like, if you hate somebody in your heart, it's the same as murdering them, type of deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's a part, but I think this is a good concept to be able to recognize that lies
I think that's a great point. I think you bring up a very good point that there maybe lying across the board is bad, like divorce, right? We talked about that. Divorce across the board is bad, but it's not always sinful.
Yeah. Divorce in the aspect of, like, affairs, technically.
Yeah. Well, and that's why Jesus says in the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same thing for, like, abuse. I would say that you should not stay in a relationship, a marriage that is abusive. Even though divorce is always bad, it's going to still have negative consequences in that space.
Yeah.
But I think that's an interesting aspect to look at lying. Now, ironically, I never used lying for good things. It was always for very bad things. But
what is good? What is a good thing? Is lying to your kid about the snacks in the closet, the pantry or whatever? I want some chocolates. Oh, we're out of chocolates, because you don't want to deal with them being upset that you said no to chocolates.
Absolutely, that's laziness. That's what that is.
Well,
now, if they were going to die,
what's good?
I would say that would be like, I think it's always like the concept of the loss of life or the aspect of putting someone in harm's way. I think that's where.
Well, you have to remember that all this stems from us talking about Santa Claus. I mean, that's how we got on the topic of,
yes,
lying isn't always bad, because,
that's true.
So
that's
on
true.
and so forth. So, I mean, that's where it all came from. So
I'm
bringing
just
it full circle.
Santa Claus is real. Santa Claus
that's a lie.
He was Saint Nicholas was a real person.
Okay. But is that who you're telling your kids?
I do say Saint Nicholas sometimes.
He used to.
Saint Nicholas.
Yeah, he used to. No, he no longer exists, and he doesn't come down the chimney and give you presents. But he was a real person.
I'll say it in past tense from now on. Like Saint Nicholas came down chimneys, and he didn't. He gave some people coal, and he gave some people presents.
But he didn't.
And then now I keep it in the past tense.
I don't know if
Boom.
I think that's all fiction.
Dodged that bullet.
I think everything that you just said is fiction.
I have now succeeded at being able to keep Santa Claus in and never lie. You're welcome, everyone. You can take that and enjoy it. All right, so I think we're good on the lie part.
And cut.
And we're going to come back and talk about truth, which is much better version of this one. So we'll be back. Goodbye.
Sure.